Last week on Everything Scotland, we stepped back in time to Mary Queen of Scots. 3 husbands, 2 of them catastrophic, an execution that took 3 attempts, a wee dog hiding in her skirts. Pretty heavy stuff. This week, we're going somewhere much nicer. This week, it's food. Scottish food to be specific. No murders, no executions, and nobody's getting beheaded. Just some of the best eating you will find anywhere in the world, from a country that's been quietly underselling itself on the food front for far too long now. Let me start by saying I am not a chef. I do cook at home. I love Scottish food, and I have opinions about it, strong ones, as I do on most things. I do cook haggis at home. I love to make cranachan, sometimes just because I feel like it, and I have a tablet recipe that I have finally got right. And the key I have learned along the way is in the method more than anything else. I make mince and tatties and steak pie because they're family favourites and there's nothing better on a cold Scottish evening. And I make stovies from my great granny's recipe because hers were the best. End of discussion. Scottish food has a reputation problem. Say those words to someone who has never been here and the first thing they pictured is deep fried everything under grey skies and a diet that explains, well, certain health statistics. That version of Scotland absolutely exists, but it's not the whole story, not even close. Today, we're doing the whole story. Haggis and hand-dived scallops, tablet and sticky toffee pudding, with a brief detour to address a jurisdictional dispute, Cullen Skink and a wee cafe on the Moray Firth, langoustines at a shack on the west coast that just came off the boat that morning, and somewhere in the middle, stovies. I'm Lesley Kennedy. This is Everything Scotland. Pull up a chair. It's time to eat. We're going to start with haggis, because haggis is where Scottish food's reputation problem begins and ends, and today we're fixing that. Haggis is minced sheep's offal, oatmeal, onion, suet and spices, traditionally cooked in a sheep's stomach. I know, that is the description that puts people off, and I understand why. On paper it sounds like a dare rather than a dinner. But consider this. A sausage is also minced meat and fat packed into a casing, and nobody interrogates the ingredients before ordering one. Haggis is a sausage. A beautifully seasoned, warmly spiced, deeply satisfying Scottish sausage. And the only reason it gets a harder time than a Cumberland is because Scotland has always been straight with you about the contents. Other countries hide that behind cheerful packaging and a friendly mascot. Scotland puts it right out there on the label and lets you decide for yourself. So, let me make that decision a little bit easier for you. If I'm making haggis, I buy mine from the butcher, already prepared, and I cook it at home. Making haggis entirely from scratch is not something most of us are doing on a weeknight, and I'm not suggesting that you should. Get it from a good butcher, cook it properly, and sit down and enjoy it. What does it taste like? Properly cooked haggis is savoury and warming, with a gentle heat from the pepper and a light earthiness from the oatmeal that gives it a texture unlike anything else. It's not rich in the way a beef stew is rich, it's more robust than that, more complete. It's a food with something to say for itself. I personally love it. And anyone who I have ever convinced to give it a try has ended up loving it too. The traditional way to eat it is with neeps, tatties. That's turnip and potato, all 3 together on a plate, and the combination is usually called a Burns supper. And it's served every January on Burns night. The sharp sweetness of the neeps cuts right through the richness of the haggis, and the potato holds everything steady. It has worked for centuries, and you know what they say, if it's not broken, why should you fix it? Beyond Burns Night, haggis turns up everywhere. Haggis bonbons, which are deep fried balls of haggis and are a pub staple and are exactly as good as they sound. Haggis pizza is much better than it has any right to be. Haggis pakora is a beautiful collision of Scottish and South Asian cooking that makes complete sense when you know that Glasgow has the largest South Asian community in Scotland, and that two cuisines this bold were always going to find each other eventually. The Scots will put haggis in almost anything. Bonbons, pizza, pakora. If there's a gap, haggis can fill it. And you know what? It works every time. When something is this good, why would you limit it to just one occasion? So, if you've been avoiding haggis, this episode is where that stops. Try it. I have never met a single person who went in with an open mind and came out unimpressed. Not one. The haggis is not the problem. Fear is the problem. And fear's not a good enough reason to miss out on something this good. Go on, try it. I dare you. Now that haggis is off the table, or rather on it, let's talk about everything else Scotland does brilliantly. And we'll start with comfort food. Scottish comfort food is not trying to impress you. It has no interest in being photographed. It just wants to feed you properly on a cold, dreich afternoon when the rain is horizontal. And it's very good at it. Mince and tatties, for example. Minced beef, onion, carrot, and a good stock, cooked low and slow until it becomes something rich and savoury and completely unpretentious, served over mashed potato. There's no technique required, no fancy equipment, no chef's finishing flourish, just patience and a decent pan. It's a staple in my house, and it always has been. Put a bowl of it in front of me in a cold evening, and I will not have a single complaint. And then there's steak pie, slow cooked chunks of beef and a deep glossy gravy under a lid of puff pastry that goes golden and crisp in the oven. In Scotland, it's always puff pastry, never short crust. Short crust's an English thing. We know what we're doing here, and we're doing it with puff. Traditionally, it's served at New Year, though we don't wait for New Year in my house. Life's too short. Then there's stovies, the one that needs a moment. Stovies are a Scottish dish of leftover meat, potato and onion, cooked slowly together until the potato breaks down and everything melds into something deeply savoury and warming. Kind of food that sticks to your ribs. It's a Monday dish historically, you know, the Sunday roast stretched out into the next day. And stovies are also the subject of more passionate disagreement than almost any other food in Scotland. Ask 10 people what goes into their stovies and you'll get 10 different answers and at least 3 arguments. Leftover roast beef, sausages, corned beef, dripping, no dripping, more onion, less onion, what kind of potato, how soft is too soft, all of it. I make mine from my great granny's recipe. And that was minced beef, beef link sausage, onion and potato and a beef gravy, cooked until it's thick and rich and the kind of thing that you want to eat in front of a fire when the rains batter into the window. That's the version I grew up with. Mine's is correct. The beauty of stovies is that everyone who grew up eating them thinks theirs is correct too. And they probably all are. There's no wrong answer as long as the potato is involved and the weather outside is doing its worst. Next, there's Cullen Skink, a thick, smoky, creamy soup made from smoked haddock, potato and onion from Cullen, a small fishing town on the Moray Firth. At its best, it's one of the finest soups you will ever eat anywhere, with a big chunk of crusty bread and butter. Perfect. The smoked haddock gives it a depth you can't fake and you can't replicate using any other ingredient. The creaminess of it wraps around you like a cosy blanket on a cold winter's day. And in Scotland, that is most days. So this soup does get a lot of use. The best version I have had has always been in small, out of the way places, the kind of places that the locals usually go, not on the tourist trail, not anywhere with chalkboard font and carefully considered interior. The wee cafe where the haddock is local and the recipe hasn't changed in 20 years because there's no reason to change it. If a local tells you it's a good place to go, go. And that brings us on to the Arbroath Smokies, which is whole haddock, hot smoked over hardwood in Arbroath on the east coast. With protected geographical indication status, meaning the real thing can only be made within a very specific area of that town. The families who make them have been using the same methods for generations. The result is something intensely, powerfully smoky with a flavour that belongs entirely to that place. Fair warning though, the smell does announce itself well before you've opened the packet. And if you're not expecting it, it can stop you in your tracks. But once you get past that, the flavour is something else entirely. I'm quite partial to them. And I will admit I have not yet had one in Arbroath itself, fresh from the smoke barrel on the quayside, but I am told it's a completely different experience, so it's on my to-do list. That's the savoury side covered. And if you're still hungry after all of that, Scotland has something to say about puddings too. And for my American listeners, when we say pudding here, we mean dessert, not the creamy stuff in a pot, although Scotland has a version of that as well. Scotland has a ridiculously sweet tooth, which is the most polite way I can put it, and it expresses itself in two ways. The sweet treats you will find in every kitchen and gift shop in the country, and the proper sit-down desserts that follow a meal. Both deserve a mention, so let's start with the sweet treats, like tablet. This is not a dessert, this is a confection. Made from sugar, butter and condensed milk, cooked to a precise temperature and beaten until it sets into a crumbly, intensely sweet slab that is absolutely not fudge. Scottish people will correct you on this. Fudge is soft and yielding. Tablet has a slight grain to it, a snap, a texture that's completely its own. You eat it in a square, usually from a paper bag, usually when nobody's watching. It's absolutely delicious, and I defy anyone to stop at just one piece. I do have a tablet recipe, and I've been making it for quite a few years now, and I'm at the point where I can just about produce a reliable batch. And I say that with the satisfaction of someone who took a while to get there. Tablet looks straightforward, but don't be fooled. It's one of those recipes where the method matters way more than the ingredients, and if you get the temperature or the timings wrong, you will absolutely know about it. Get it wrong one way and you end up with fudge. Get it wrong the other way and you have something resembling toffee concrete. Let's just say the early attempts are more educational than edible. When it does come right, there's nothing quite like it. A piece of good Scottish tablet is one of the best things you can eat in this country, and I include everything else on today's list in that comparison. Just don't tell your dentist I said so. Shortbread, also not a dessert, but a biscuit. 3 ingredients: butter, flour and sugar. The genius is entirely in the quality of the butter and the patience that you bring to handling it. Properly made shortbread is pale, crumbly, with a buttery richness, and the version in the tartan tin at the airport just doesn't do it justice. Make it from scratch with good Scottish butter, and you'll understand immediately why this is a national institution. Now, the actual desserts. And Scotland does not do understated ones. When it comes to the sweet course, subtlety is absolutely not the point. Consider yourself warned. And we'll start with cranachan. Toasted oatmeal, whipped cream, whiskey, honey and Scottish raspberries, layered and served cold. Traditionally a Burns night dessert, though I make it at many other times of the year too, sometimes just because. It tastes unmistakably Scottish in a way that's hard to explain, but immediately recognisable when you eat it. And now, the jurisdictional dispute. Sticky toffee pudding. Warm date sponge, drenched in toffee sauce, served with cream or ice cream. Or, if you're making good decisions, both. One of the greatest desserts in the British Isles, and one of my absolute favourites. There are those who say it originated in the Lake District in England. There are those who say it came from Scotland. And there is a Canadian theory that neither side particularly accepts. The Udney Arms in Aberdeenshire has a strong claim. A hotel in Cumbria has an equally strong claim. Food historians have been arguing about this for years without any resolution. My position? Sticky toffee pudding appears on menus the length and breadth of Scotland. It is made and eaten with enormous enthusiasm from Dumfries to Inverness, and Scotland has adopted it with the conviction of a country that knows what it likes. So I'm including it in this episode, and anyone who has a problem with that can write in. But as good as all of that is, I have saved the best for last. Or at least the thing I get the most excited about, the seafood. Scotland has over 6,000 miles of coastline, clean, cold Atlantic water in the west and the North Sea on the east, and the sea lochs cutting deep into the highlands in between. The result is some of the finest seafood in the world, and Scotland will be the first to tell you so. Scotland exports langoustines, scallops, oysters, mussels, crab and lobster to France, Spain and Japan. The rest of the world worked this out whilst visitors to Scotland were distracted by all the wrong things. It's time to look past the deep fryer and find the good stuff. The best seafood I have ever eaten in this country has never been in a restaurant with a tasting menu. It has been at a wee shack near the water with a really short menu, where what's on offer came off the boat that morning and has not travelled any further than was absolutely necessary. Langoustines, oysters, mussels, all of it as fresh as it gets from water so cold and clean it does the work for you. There are 3 places I want to tell you about, and I cannot pick a favourite between them. That alone should tell you everything you need to know about the quality of all 3. First, there's the Green Shack in Oban. Small, green, on the waterfront, exactly what it sounds like. The scallops are outstanding, and the oysters are the kind that remind you why fresh matters. Oban is one of the seafood capitals of Scotland, and the Green Shack is the proof of that in its most direct, honest form. Sit outside if the weather allows. Even if it doesn't, sit outside anyway. You're in Scotland. The Inveraray Seafood Shack. For those who listened to the Clans episode, you'll know Inveraray. The seafood shack there follows the same principles. Fresh, simple, on the water. Oysters, mussels, whatever came in that day. There's something about eating seafood right there with the loch in front of you. It makes it taste much better. I'm convinced it does, and anyone who's eaten there would agree with me. And finally, the Shellfish Shack on Skye. Try saying that fast. Skye has outstanding seafood, and in a country with this much coastline, that's saying a great deal. The Shellfish Shack does what all the best places do. It gets out of the way of the ingredients. A good langoustine, a steaming bowl of mussels, a big plate of oysters. None of it needs much. Squeeze a lemon maybe, some good bread, the view. That is the meal, and it's worth making a trip to Skye specifically for. Though Skye has plenty of other reasons to visit as well. I've been to all 3, and I can't separate them. Every time I have sat down at one of those shacks with seafood in front of me, I've thought, yes, this is exactly where I want to be and exactly what I want to be eating. That's the highest recommendation I know how to give. If you're on the West Coast, eat seafood. Don't wait for a special occasion. Find the place the locals actually go to, order whatever came in that morning and sit down. You won't regret it. I have told every guest on tour I have ever had the same thing, and not one of them has come back and told me I was wrong. Before we actually finish up, I want to say something about where Scottish food is going, because the story doesn't stop at the seafood shacks. The traditional dishes are the foundation, and they have deserved every word today. But Scottish food in 2026 isn't just haggis and tablet, and it would be a crime not to mention it. There's a farm to table movement in Scotland producing some brilliant restaurants. A craft gin industry that went from almost nothing to globally respected in about a decade, with distilleries all over the country making spirits that taste like the landscape it came from. And an artisan cheese scene that's been quietly developing for years and now stands comparison with France and Italy. I say that without any bias whatsoever. Scottish chefs have been earning Michelin stars at a rate that would have seemed unlikely 20 years ago. Edinburgh and Glasgow both have restaurant scenes that sit comfortably alongside any European capital. And running through all of it, from the starred kitchens to the seafood shacks, is the same thing. The quality of what Scotland grows, catches, and rears. Cold, clean water, good land, cattle, lamb, venison, game, soft fruit from Perthshire, so good it barely needs anything done to it. Scotland has always had the ingredients. What has changed is that Scotland is finally making the most of them, and the rest of the world is paying attention. The food here is outstanding. It always was. Now everyone else is finding out. So I have 2 listener stories picked out this week, and the first one is from Debbie in Ohio. And Debbie says, I have been listening since I found episode 1. I live in a small town in Ohio and I've never been to Scotland. I'll probably not get there for a while yet, but I have loved learning all about it. And I try using the Scottish words in conversation, and nobody knows what I'm talking about. They think I have lost the plot. I just think it's funny. Debbie, you have absolutely not lost the plot. You've just found a better vocabulary. Keep going. The Scottish words only get better from here. And then there's Kevin in Colorado. Kevin says, we asked a local for directions in Edinburgh. He walked us there himself, chatting along the way, and then just said, have a good trip, and left before we could even thank him. My wife and I just looked at each other. That was it. That just summed up Scotland for us. Kevin, that is Scotland in one story. Nobody asked him to do it, he just did it. That's what happens here more than you would think, and it still surprises me every time. Now, especially for you, Debbie, and anyone else who has been listening, here is the Scots word of the week. And this week, it's numpty. N-U-M-P-T-Y. Numpty. A foolish person. Someone who really should know better. Not a cruel word. More affectionate than that. But implies a certain level of avoidable stupidity. And I've chosen it this week for one specific reason. If you listen to this episode and you're still refusing to try haggis, if you are actually still avoiding haggis after all of that, you're being a numpty. You've heard the case, you've run out of excuses. Give it a try. Next week on Everything Scotland, we're going for Scottish music. From Scottish traditional folk music, some of the oldest in Europe, fiddles and pipes and songs that have been passed down for centuries, to Lewis Capaldi, Jerry Cinnamon, Biffy Clyro, Skerryvore and the Corries, and let's not forget Frightened Rabbit, whose story I will handle with the care it deserves. Scottish music contains multitudes, and next week we're going into all of them. But before I go, I need to ask. If you're enjoying Everything Scotland and looking for 2 minutes of your time, subscribe so you never miss an episode, and if you have a wee 30 seconds to spare, leave a review wherever you listen. It makes a real difference to how many people find the podcast, and I love to read them. You'll be doing me a massive favour, and I genuinely do mean that. You can find us at Everything Scotland Official on social media. Come over and say hello. Tell me your favourite Scottish dish. I want to know. I'm Lesley Kennedy. This is Everything Scotland. Slán va. Now, go and eat something.